Welcome back to Fantasy Football Today, presented by Capital One. So we gave the starts that you need for Week 16, and now it's the fun time to give you the players that we should be avoiding, and a lot of it might have to do when it comes to the weather. So let's show you Dave's players that he's sitting for Week 16, and an interesting list of guys here. Not necessarily all weather-related, but certainly some of it, I'm sure.
One of them is.
And you see Aaron Rodgers on this list. You got Jamal Williams, Michael Pittman, Gabe Davis, and Gerald Everett as well. So Dave, Aaron Rodgers in a game where the projected total is, I think it's over 46 points. And so Pete Prisco says this game's going to get loose, as he likes to say. And Aaron Rodgers might be a big reason why, but you don't think that's going to be the case.
I'm resisting the urge. I like him as a low-end starter. I just don't have him in my top 12. And here's the reality, Jamie. He's attempted over 35 passes 4 times all season. He's been over 255 yards passing once. He's totaled 3 touchdowns once. And this Dolphins defense, for whatever it's worth, they've allowed a quarterback to score 20 or fewer fantasy points for their past 5 games. And there's no David Bakhtiari at left tackle. I wonder if that pass rush can get to Rodgers. And he just hasn't had that big blow-up game. What, he's had like 2 games north of 20 fantasy points?
He had 2 games over 23 points. Both of them were at
Christian
home
Watson
prior to the last 3 games.
Right, and it was like Christian Watson blowing up. And I like Watson. I'm going to start him as a number 2 receiver. But Rodgers, I think I can name 12 quarterbacks I'd rather have than him. One of them would be Gardner Minshew.
Understandably so. He's been bad on the road, so that's another thing to take into account here as well. Michael Pittman, you don't love him with Nick Foles? How's that possible?
It's flex worthy. That's what he is. Nick Foles has arrived. I'm nervous. This isn't the same Nick Foles that we might have seen earlier in his career. His yards per attempt.
There was a good
touchdown. There was. Right, he had a 7 touchdown game once
stretch.
against Las Vegas. Or against, they were in Oakland at the time. That's how old we are. His yards per attempt has dropped to 6.3. He did? I don't know that. Touchdown rate, ADOT, they've dropped over the past 5 years. Pittman has 8 red zone targets this year. He has 4 end zone targets. He might dink and dunk his way to another game north of 15 PPR points, but I don't know if I want to trust him to get much more than that, even though he did last week. And the Chargers, this is the team that dominated the Dolphins, except for one play against Tyreek Hill. That was 2 weeks ago. They dominated the Titans. I don't know if that really means anything last week. I think their pass defense is actually pretty good. So I think Michael Pittman's someone that you look at and you say, okay, he's a good flex in PPR. He can go to that 12, 13 point range.
I just hope for people that are starting, I'm with you, you see, well, I'm ranked the same thing. I just hope for people that are starting him, Nick Foles just does what Matt Ryan did. 19 PPR points last week. It was ugly, but that's the way it's going to get done. Non-PPR, you can avoid him because he's not scoring touchdowns.
Yeah.
But I hope if you are starting Michael Pittman, you get similar production from Nick Foles. All right, Heath, the guys you're sitting, for the most part, look all weather related. So you got 3 guys in the Saints and Browns game. We've talked a lot about that. It's easy to avoid them in the bomb cyclone.
Bomb
you got
cyclone.
it.
There you go, I got it right. Derek Carr, hit me with the stat because I love it. Every time it's in cold weather, what happens?
I'm going to avoid the puns about starting your car in cold weather. He has played 8 games below 40 degrees in the NFL. He is 1-7. His team has averaged 16 points per game. He's thrown 9 touchdowns, 8 interceptions in those eight games. 13.1 fantasy points per game. If you drop it down to freezing temperatures, he's only played 4 of those games. He's averaged 11.3 fantasy points per game. He has been absolutely miserable through his entire career in cold weather games.
And the Steelers have been great since Week 10, which is when TJ Watt has come back from the pectoral injury. Only one quarterback has been good against them, and that was Joe Burrow last time I checked. Joe Burrow a little bit better than Derek Carr. We get a lot of questions about Chico Okonkwo over the last several weeks, and so it's worth bringing him up here. You're sitting him because of the quarterback, because of Treylon Burks, because of the matchup, or all 3?
Not the matchup. I don't care about the matchup. I do love him, and I'd like to keep him on my roster and keep her in dynasty leagues, but you just look at this offense with likely Malik Willis starting and Treylon Burks back. Burks and Okonkwo run a lot of the same type of routes. A lot of that downfield stuff is what Okonkwo has been getting targeted on. I don't like his chances of seeing 5 targets in this game. I don't really want to start any Titans besides Derrick Henry.
It makes a lot of sense, and again, I don't know if at this point in the season, with only 2 games left in your fantasy league, you want to hold on to him, but we'll see what happens. Maybe Malik Willis connects with him, and you can go back to it in Week 17 against the Cowboys, but I don't think a lot of people would trust that connection.
I bet you could pick him right back up off the waiver wire.
Could be tough for Okonkwo, so it's easy to sort of move on from him. Unfortunately, he's been a nice young player, and hopefully next year we'll continue to do that as well. The sits for me, you left me one player in the Saints-Browns game, so I took Deshaun Watson as a sit, but Brian Robinson, Deontay Foreman, the 2 guys I think that fantasy managers might be looking to still start. Allen Lazard and Brandon Ayuk, easy receivers to get away from. Robinson's really good. He's gaining 100 total yards or a touchdown in 4 straight games. For the fast 5 games, excuse me. But this is a 49ers defense, number 1 in fewest fantasy points allowed to running backs. Easy to sort of get away from him. Do you have any interest, either of you, Antonio Gibson or Robinson, in a desperation player, or would you play somebody like Zach Moss over those guys?
I think I'd be prepared to start Robinson over Moss. I don't know what to expect from the Colts and how they'll disperse their run game, and it might not be just the two guys from last week. I think Jordan Wilkins came back to their roster.
He did.
So it could be a three-headed mess there. At least I know that while the Commanders are still hanging in the balance of the game, Brian Robinson will get some carries. It might only end up being 12 carries, and it might end up being only 50 yards. That still could be better than Zach Moss.
I kind of feel like this could turn into an Antonio Gibson game. I would start him over all those guys. This could be one of those games where he gets 5 or 6 targets against the 49ers. It may not turn into much because that defense is so good, but he would be my favorite amongst the Colts and Washington running backs.
I would agree in PPR. Non-PPR, I still might give Robinson a nod just because he's most likely to fall into the end zone if they get the opportunity to do it, and Terry McLaurin is not lining up illegally, or at least not getting told he's lining up illegally by the referee. Deontay Foreman has been great for fantasy managers. We know that. Since the Christian McCaffrey trade, he's been fantastic, except for the last couple of weeks. And now he's taking on the Lions team that I know we used to say the Lions are an easy team to run against, but they've become one of the toughest matchups for opposing running backs. It's been 8 games in a row that no running back has gotten more than 10 PPR points. So Deontay Foreman, good luck. Chuba Hubbard, good luck. He's the better of the two for this week, but I would try to avoid both of them. Even the 3 catches that you might get from Chuba Hubbard, not going to be enough